Today's meditation is inspired by a poem of David White's and inspired by Jim Tipton, the man, who, as Jackie says, experiences life as a poet. So if you would please, take a moment and put your body into a calm position. Now take in and let out a long, relaxed breath. Now, if you will, close your eyes and forget everything you know and believe. Forget all of your assumptions about the world and yourself. Empty your mind. Imagine you are standing at a high mountain lake, dressed comfortably warm, breathing in the crisp, clean air. Aware of your breath, aware of the lake. In this high place, it is as simple as this. Let everything, leave everything you know behind. Step toward the gold surface. Say the old prayer of rough love and open both arms. Those who come with empty hands will stare into the lake astonished. There in the cold light, reflecting pure snow, the true shape of your own face. In this high place, it is as simple as this, as simple as this. Leave everything you know behind. Step toward the cold surface. Say the old prayer of rough love and open both arms. Those who come with empty hands will stare into the lake astonished. There in the cold light, reflecting pure snow, the true shape of your own face. The true shape of your own face.
Our speaker today is James Tipton. He calls his talk "To Love for 1,000 Years." James Tipton, widely published poet and author, has lived at Lakeside for over 10 years, where almost since his arrival he's written his popular Hearts at Work column in El Ojo del Lago. Several of his books available locally are Letters from a Stranger, with a foreword by Isabel Allende, Washing Dishes in the Ancient Village, All the Horses of Heaven, and To Love for 1,000 Years. Are your shoulders weary? Did you bring all the love you could carry? Or is love's burden always light? Today, the Sunday before Valentine's Day, Jim will present a program of love poetry and love stories. Very special, mostly his own. Let's welcome Jim Tipton.
Thank you, Margaret, for that great introduction, and David for that lovely meditation. And Mark Scotch, where are you? Thank you for that wonderful presentation on Russian poetry and music last week. I wish you had had a day exactly like this one instead of cold and rain. I understand you're going to do that again for us later this spring for many of the submitters, so good. Thank all of you. Margaret's first joke was about a couple lying in bed talking to each other. It reminded me what she was telling us that of another similar story where the husband's lying in bed and turns to his wife and he says, "Honey, will you still love me when I'm old and gray and forgetful?" And she looks at him and she says, "Yes, honey, I do." I have always enjoyed Mark Twain's writings, and he had a lot of observations and comments on love and aging both, and some of them have become common household expressions we're familiar with. Recently, I actually have entered early middle age. And maybe some of you have. Well, raise your hand if you've also entered early middle age. Good, about everybody. Or my daughter says, correcting me, she says you should say at least middle age, early middle age. At least early middle age. But anyway, entering early middle age, I've got to thinking a lot lately about love and the shapes love takes as we do age and move into a different time of our life. And I've been writing some stories and poems that are related to that. I'll read a few of those. Not all of my poems will be about that, but some will. Here are some of Mark Twain's comments about love and aging. To get the full value of joy, you must have somebody to divide it with. Another one I like, love is the irresistible desire to be irresistibly desired. Another one that, I guess it doesn't really fit me, but be good and you will be lonesome. And this one, everybody knows the second half of it. Of all the things I've lost, I miss my mind the most. That's Mark Twain. Of all the things I've lost, I miss my mind the most. That's Mark Twain. Finish this one. Age is an issue of mind over matter.
I don't mind if you don't matter.
You're very close. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So age is an issue of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. We've all heard that, have we not? These are so well written that they stick with us. Wrinkles merely indicate where smiles have been. Another one. Where would men be without women? Mighty scarce. Mighty scarce. Still lecturing into his 70s, Twain, in fact, Hal Holbrook did a wonderful redoing of those Mark Twain lectures called Mark Twain Tonight in the 60s. Some of you remember that? But one of the Hal Holbrook, yeah. One of the lines out of that, out of Twain, he says, Chaucer's dead, Shakespeare's dead, Milton's dead, and I'm not feeling so good myself. And he's also noted for his cigars. You know, when he has lines about cigars, if I can remember somewhere, one of them. I always try to set a good example. That's why I don't smoke when I'm sleeping. My dad will turn 101 in August. He still appreciates the company of women, and they have always appreciated his company. He now lives in a nice little assisted living home in northern Ohio with 3 women and 1 female staff member rotating around the clock on duty. 2 of the women regularly desire his attention, and often when I arrive to visit him, he's sitting on the couch with one of these women on each side, each holding a hand. Very charming. A few months ago, a 3rd woman moved into that assisted living home, and all of these people suffer, to some degree, a little dementia, as I do myself. And I showed up to visit my sister, and she said, Jim, last week this new woman moved into that assisted living home. And about a week after she arrived, the attendant on duty went around to check on everybody. They have the doors unlocked, and they don't have locks on the doors, of course, for the people who are staying here. The front door is always locked. But she gets up to go and check to make sure everybody's okay. This woman is missing. She continues her checking, comes to my dad's room. And she's there, lying on top of him, cuddling with him, their arms around each other, in bed. So none of us ever outgrows the need to love or the need to be loved. And I find these situations my father gets into kind of charming. Makes me want to live to be 101 as well. I'd like to read a story set in a retirement home, and I apologize to those of you who have heard it before. It's called The Rainbow Kid. And it's about different types of love. Remember, love remembered, love in the present, a love for his own version of what he imagines God to be. And so this is pure fiction. The Rainbow Kid. A long time ago, when a few people still loved him, the Rainbow Kid reached this place on the plains of Denver, the Golden Rose Retirement Home. Now he was 93, and those same people who loved him were dead, or at least in their own dead-end retirement homes. Sometimes late at night, though, the Rainbow Kid thought he could hear one of them, one or two of them, tapping with a spoon on a distant wall. Sometimes he tapped back, very quietly. All summer, the kid had trouble sleeping, and the nurse, named Estefania, arrived each night at 9 o'clock sharp to hand him water and to drop 2 little pills into his open mouth. Then he had to move fast, because in 15 minutes, wherever he was in his little room, he would fall asleep, hopefully on the tiny bed, but sometimes in the padded chair, and a couple of times on the toilet seat. Lately, the pills were wearing off early. He had been waking 2 or 3 hours before dawn. Suddenly, just after waking, he would feel his heart leap up, like a big stallion on its hind legs. Easy boy, the kid would say, over and over, until the stallion no longer wanted to kick loose, no longer wanted to burst out of his chest. He kept this to himself. The pretty nurse Estefania remembered who he really was. She was the only one who called him by his real name. "You still awake, Rainbow Kid?" she said with her sweet Mexican accent, pronouncing kid much more like Kid. "The kid is still awake, Fanny, and waiting for you." He loved his nurse, Fanny. She was only 19, and he loved her names, both Fanny and Estefania. He always felt like clapping his hands when he said them. The director told him he had become unsociable, and told him his meals would be carried up to his room now. That was fine with the kid, because it was Fanny who brought the red plastic tray loaded with his favorites: meatloaf with lots of tomato sauce, mashed potatoes, tapioca pudding, and rolls warm and soft like a woman's breast. Those cooks knew what they were doing. The director didn't. He would drop in on the kid now and then, and every conversation was the same. The director began, Bob, try to remember who you are." The Rainbow Kid started to bob his head. Bob, remember who you are." The Rainbow Kid bobbed harder. Bob, the director shouted. The Rainbow Kid bobbed even harder, but still couldn't remember a thing. "Bob, you're not the Rainbow Kid. You were a plumber here in Denver." "A plumber? A plumber of what? Pantaloons? Soles? If I was a plumber, you must be Billy Jesus." But tonight only Fanny was in the little room, and he loved her. Had he not loved Nellie so much, he might have tried to make a move on little Fanny. But he was, he thought, still on the high trail of the heart. At least that's what Nellie called it. And for a long time now, it had been, for the Rainbow Kid, the mighty, lonesome, high trail of the heart. Here, Rainbow Kid, is your water. Good. Now let me help you over to your bed. Her gentle brown hands helped him lift himself out of the chair and lie down. You can stay with me tonight, he said to Fanny with a wide grin. He really did love Fanny. She never asked him to bob. Oh, Keith, I can't promise them. I always work until midnight. The Rainbow Kid liked the woman who made a promise and stuck to it. But at least Fanny always kissed him goodnight on the cheek. Some night soon he knew Fanny would tell him she loved him. Then he would have to think about what to do. In the bottom right corner, he had already told her about Nellie. The kid studied the sepia photo beside his bed. In the bottom right corner, there was a little oval stamp that read, Old Time Western Studio. Remember those? He and his wife Nellie sat in a big copper tub kissing each other. He was duded up in a billowy white shirt and leather vest with the silver star of the law pinned over his heart. His beat-up Stetson had a bullet hole clean through it. His Winchester leaned against the tub. Nellie wore a low-cut ladies of the night gown that showed almost all of her creamy breasts. Nellie had insisted that they had that photo taken on his 60th birthday. She had written across the bottom, for the Rainbow Kid, with all the love I have left. It was signed Nellie. Less than a year later, she was dead. So what a life it had. And now that he thought about it, what a life it had. Even before he met Nellie. Few people knew that there was a fifth man walking with the Earps brothers and Doc Holliday down Fremont Street in Denver. That fatal day they confronted the Clantons and the McLowrys. The kid wished he still had that long black coat and that lever-action Winchester that he had used to save Wyatt's life. When the reporters showed up, the Rainbow Kid slipped into Fly's photography studio. He didn't need the glory. Let the Earps and Doc Holliday have it all. A few weeks later, Wyatt's brother Morgan was killed, and then his brother Virgil was badly wounded. Doc Holliday's tuberculosis was killing him. The whole territory seemed to be after the Earps and Doc. But the kid was a Colorado boy, and he led into safety, all the way to Silverton, high in the mountains of Colorado. They left Doc in the tuberculosis sanitarium in Glenwood Springs. It was up there in Silverton, now that he thought about it, that Josie, Wyatt's wife, that beautiful actress who had stepped off the stage and stamped her pretty foot on the dusted Tombstone streets a couple of years earlier, started to become a bit too suggestive around the kid. While she and the kid stood at the door each night waiting for Wyatt and the boys to stumble home, Josie liked to rub her beautiful bosom against the kid. Well, the kid realized that could easily blossom into something that would put him at odds with the man whose life he had saved. And so reluctantly, the kid bade farewell. He headed to Denver, thinking to find his old trail buddy. And thank God he did, because that old trail buddy introduced him to Nellie. Nellie never made him go to bed at 9 o'clock. When they did go to bed, she always said, "Kid, the night is young." Yet, that fool director, on the days he wasn't trying to convince the Rainbow Kid he was a plumber, was trying to convince him that almost everyone now lived in the 21st century. The Denver sewers must be overloaded with just the shit from this one man. To make up for it, the director ought to shovel out every outhouse in Colorado. The director told all the other guests to never call the kid by his real name, Rainbow Kid. But whenever they saw him, they were to say Bob. He was so damn tired of bobbing every time they said it, that he was losing weight and getting aches at the base of his skull. Some of them said Bob just to make him start bobbing, then they would laugh. Why he followed their orders and bobbed at all, he didn't know. But now, whenever he felt nervous, he was even doing it, alone in his room. The last time he was allowed to eat in the cafeteria, when people started saying Bob, Bob, and he started bobbing, the director loudly announced to the kid in front of everyone that he was going to get the kid a bucket of water and fill it with apples, so the kid could bob all day long. The kid turned to the other guests, just as loudly proclaimed, this so-called director wouldn't know a real apple from a road apple. Fanny had just left, but there was another knock on the door. He knew the director never worked this late, but if it was the director, tonight the kid would make him bob. More likely it was Fanny, wanting to kiss him one more time. "Come in, Fanny." He creaked out in his most dramatic voice, at the same time clapping his hands. He opened the door. A grizzled old cowboy stood there, wearily brushing the dust off his worn chaps. It was his old trail buddy, God. "God, what are you doing here after all these years? You moving into the Golden Rose?" "Golden Rose? What name, kid? Sounds like the saloon we sat in one time for 3 days down in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, don't it?" God reached his big hand toward the kid. "God, it's good to see you," the kid said. The kid had never forgotten it was God who had introduced him to Nellie. "Kid," God began as he walked on into the room, "it's good to see you. I've been thinking about you, remembering the old days when we rode together. I've been remembering the old days somewhat myself, when I was up to remembering. Lately, though, I get lost between here and who I was." God continued, "We had some fun, didn't we? Running them cattle down to Mexico, tumbling the ladies, cheating at poker, playing like we was the law when we felt like it, killing whoever needed it. We sure did, God, and I'd do it all over again. At least the stuff Nellie would approve of. If I know Nellie, it's almost the opposite," God said, and winked. The kid tried to wink back, but big tears were gathering among the little pebbles around his eyes. "Kid, there's something I needed to see you about tonight," God said. "I'm listening with both big ears," the kid said. He wanted to say big because of him that God used to box his ears, the kid's ears, when he wasn't paying attention. "Kid, for 17 years now, Nellie's been sitting up in heaven waiting for you. She's so damn lonesome she doesn't know what to do. She says everything's so damn white up there you can't see a damn thing because of it. She says she needs your rainbow, kid. He said to me, God, damn it, you tell that to the kid the next time you see him. Needs your rainbow, kid. The kid was trying hard to hold on with both hands, but the medicine Fanny had given him had taken hold, and he was slipping away now. Right when he wanted to talk all night long about the old days. He felt God lean over and kiss his wrinkled cheek, and then leave, closing the door behind him. As the kid let go and dropped down into sleep, the last thing he thought was, that's the second time I've been kissed tonight. But damn if that medicine didn't work all at once, and then too soon it stopped working at all. Because this time, the kid woke up only a couple of hours later. In his big ears, he heard something. A whole herd of horses raced across the plains just below his window. God, he loved the smell of horses. Those horses smelled like the horses of heaven. Suddenly he could feel the stallion inside his chest again, prancing on his hind legs and kicking out wildly with his front legs. Easy boy, the kid said. But the big stallion kept kicking. Below his window, he could hear God whispering, easy, kid. Easy, kid. I have your old horse saddled and waiting just below your window. The night is young. Thank you. Alex posted that in the new online mid-month short stories. Although there's a section that you go to www.chapala.com of longer short stories, too long for Aloho, and you'll find that in that www.chapala.com stuff. We're in about, what, the third month now?
2 months ago, I think, Jim.
Good, yeah.
Wonderful story.
Thank you. It's not about my father, but it's one of those funny things. This story I wouldn't have written without visiting my father so many times, you know, and all these Hispanic girls running around and stuff. Make things work. Well, like I said, having entered at least early middle age, I have been thinking a lot about love and the shape it takes as we do age. And thinking about different ideas, I'll try to work into poems, or rather understand through writing a story or poem, rather. One of the things I've thought about lately is, in a relationship, it does not matter at all which partner is doing the most loving, who loves the most in the relationship. Totally irrelevant. But until we hit a certain trait in our lives that seems to be important, we want sort of equality or whatever. And eventually I have to write a story to understand that more clearly in my head. All of us have seen a t-shirt that reads, old age isn't for sisters. I want to print up a t-shirt that says, love isn't for sissies. Love isn't for sissies. For several decades now, I have written and read a lot of tanka poetry, this wonderful 5-line Japanese form that originated in the 9th century. Originally, ladies of the imperial court in Japan would write these little 5-line notes and secret them out to potential lovers in the street. And they would sometimes reply back in a 5-line poem. And then these 5-line poems would record the history of the relationship. And a lot of these have still survived. And even though these are over 1,000 years old, you will probably find a few that resonate with you. I'll read 2 or 3 of those from 1,000 years ago. And we're not so very different from those people. Different culture, different time. Here's one of them. I thought to pick the flower of forgetting for myself, but I found it already growing in your heart. Okay? These gifts you left have become, these are all different. I'm stopping between them. They're all separate poems. These gifts you left have become my enemies. Without them, there might have been a moment's forgetting. How many have had an experience like that, where you have a treasure gift from a loved one? I have. I think I will not go out again on your drifting boat that floats in any direction without ever setting a course. Remind you of any old relationships? I think I'll read that again. There are a lot of heads nodding on that one. I think I will not go out again on your drifting boat that floats in any direction without ever setting a course. 1,000 years old, Japan. How about this one? Which is better? How many of you know the poems by Sappho? She's the earliest poet we know for sure who wrote the stuff in Western culture. One of her poems goes, love for me takes place somewhere between the sweetness of honey and the sting of bees. Now that's 2,800 years ago. Tells us something about the nature of poetry and human feelings, I think. 2,800 years ago. Love for me takes place somewhere between the sweetness of honey and the sting of bees. Put up your hand if you don't identify with that one. Oops, I guess I have to ask that again. No hands went up. Okay. Here's another 9th century Japanese. Which is better? The distant love you long for, or the one you see daily without desire? Which is better? The distant love you long for, or the one you see daily without desire? It reminds me of some Pablo Neruda lines. I like Pablo Neruda's poems. And he has a poem that goes, when you are far away, I miss you so much. I love you so much that when you are here, I sometimes wish you would go far away. When you are far away, I miss you so much. He actually has a final line I didn't read, which I read. When you are far, far away, I miss you so much and love you so much that when you are here, I sometimes wish you would go far away so that I could have those feelings again. Let's see. There's an old pop music song about that. I can't remember right now. Ken, are you here somewhere? How can I miss you when you won't go away? Thank you. Thank you. What's the name of the singer? Dan Hicks. Yeah. How can I miss you when you won't go away? Well, those aren't Tonka, but they're sort of related to what we're doing here. Tonka, incidentally, historically, are about relationships and not about nature. Not till the first 3 lines are pulled out 600 years later and become haiku that the nature of the stuff changes. So these are about relationships and about love. The Tonka is usually 5 lines, or it is always 5 lines long. The first 3 lines usually pose a problem, a situation. The last 2 lines give you a resolution or a comment or on the first 3 lines. So you have 3 lines and 2 lines. 3 lines. It's sort of the way the brain works, actually. We accumulate a little bit of information, we make a little summarizing comment. Kind of the way we learn things, our brains. And so the Tonka fits well into the way the brain works, I think. and our hearts work that way, I think. Each Tonka line is a separate language unit. So you have 1, 2, 3, and then 2 lines commenting as a separate unit. I'll demonstrate that. This is not a Japanese Tonka, one I just prepared for you here that you're familiar with. All of you are familiar with St. Francis of Assisi. Gosh, 11:15. I have an hour to go. Sit back and relax. Here's a poem that will demonstrate. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace, preferably in an advisory capacity. That's how these Japanese Tonka work. Here's another Japanese Tonka I like awfully well. You can see the 5 pieces, the 5 units. I always knew I would take this road, but yesterday I did not know that it would be today. Aren't these beautiful things? Well, so much for the good stuff. I'm going to read a few of my own now. Yes, I will leave her, but will I still wake in the night and see the moon on her hair? This next one has happened to me a few times. I knew she was not for me, which is why I permitted only part of me to follow her into her apartment. You want to know why I like her unremarkable body? Because inside that body is another body that only comes out at night. Those are from a book called All the Horses of Heaven, and my books are all available at Diane Furrow's. I'm falling apart here. Let's see. There we go. I need some help, but not for this. Thanks. And that book I wanted to mention, if I have it here. I must have left it on the table back there. But anyway, it has Lady Godiva on the cover, riding a horse through the town. And I wanted to mention that because my wife Martha, raise your hand please, Martha, translated that into Spanish. She translated this into Spanish. The 2 of my books are bilingual. Martha owns a charming little Mexican restaurant as you head up toward Lakeside Little Theater, about 4 doors down on the right. Best hamburgers around for 25 pesos. It's called Cafe Verde. And great prices and great food. So she's the owner and head cook and cleaner-upper. Here's another one of mine. Over the next hill is a woman you won't want to miss. Now, just your television stands between you and total bliss. Just imagine what would happen to our lives if we gave as much time to our relationships as we give to our beloved televisions. They say on average 4 to 7 hours a day. When I was at a Jung conference in Notre Dame, Indiana, and a week-long deal, Lawrence Vonderpost, different people I like were speaking there, and but everybody was getting awfully tired, or not everybody, about 10% of the people were getting really tired of endlessly hearing about the animus and the anima, these sort of abstractions of male and female. There wasn't any real talk about sex at all, just this abstract anima and animus. And so I'm at a cocktail party about the 4th night. We have them every night, actually, to discuss what went on in the day. And this woman comes up to me, told a stranger and says, and she's also tired of this conference, says, word for word, I'm looking for a man a lot less saintly than my husband. What's your name? Another one from that book called The Horses of Heaven. When death finally comes, can she be in the form of that woman wearing the black bikini, walking toward me on the beach at Goya Beach? We have a wonderful Tonka writer in our midst today, Margaret Van Every, and some of you have read her books and heard her readings here. She's well known locally, but also has a developing reputation in the United States and appears in the major Tonka magazines. Here are some that related to my theme today. Filling out our final wishes papers, we check cremation. This is by Margaret. Filling out our final wishes papers, we check cremation, as though making a selection from a sushi menu. And my sisters and I have had this experience, restoring her sterling to a lustrous shine. I think of her. My heirs decline inheritance requiring maintenance. Kids don't want all this family stuff anymore that's been around 300 years. This is at a concert. In the darkened hall, the stranger on my left holds my hand throughout the ode to joy, as husband dozes on my right. Isn't that charming? Those are from her latest book, Holding Hands with a Stranger, also available at Diane Pearl. Here are a few recent ones of mine not appearing yet in a book. If you do not want to make love, do not stand near me when the air is filled with night-blooming jasmine. As I kissed you, I noticed just behind you 1,000 bougainvilleas breaking into blossom. That beloved old dog, by the time she died, she had managed to bury in the vegetable garden every regret I ever had. When at last I found a woman whose eyes were like the eyes of my golden retriever, I married her. Martha, would you put your hand up, please? Another recent one. When I am dead, in fact, this will be the last Tonka I read. I want to do something else. When I am dead, who will remember how beautiful my mother was the day I was born? Well, I guess I don't have time to pull out more books, so I'd like to end with us singing together that chorus, and anybody in early middle age at least remembers it. I'd like to end with that chorus, just a song at twilight, a sweet old Victorian love song, and the chorus is something we're familiar with. So I'm going to read it, and we'll sing it together once, and we'll try to pick up the words that you don't know. And then we'll sing it again with a little more gusto. So it's just a song at twilight, when the lights are low, and the flickering shadows softly come and go. Though the heart be weary, sad the day and long, still to us at twilight comes love's old song, comes love's old sweet song. Raise your hand if you remember that. Most of you. Okay, I'm going to sing that, and you who know it, sing it with me, and we'll sing it the second time where more people will join in. Just a song at twilight, when the lights are low and the flickering shadows softly come and go. Though the heart be weary, sad the day and long, still to us at twilight comes love's old song, comes love's old sweet song. Now with a little more volume and more people joining in. Just a song at twilight. Before we start, take hands with the stranger beside you. Hold hands with everybody beside you. Good idea, Margaret. Thanks to you for Margaret, taking hands with the stranger. Okay. Just a song at twilight, when the lights are low, and the flickering shadows softly come and go. Come on, Alex. Though the heart be weary, sad the day and long, still to us at twilight comes love's old song, comes love's old sweet song. Thank you so much, and happy Valentine's. Thank you so much. You've been a great audience. Great audience. Thank you.
And you've been a marvelous everything.
Oh, here's the book, All the Horses of Heaven. What I was looking for. It was Marcus' translation.
Yeah, that's time for you to read one. Read one.
Can I read one?
Yes, you may.
Just one? Todas las personas que había querido llegar a ser, pero lástima, solo hay tiempo para convertirme en uno. All those people he had wanted to become. But alas, there's only time left to become this one.
And what a wonderful one that one is. And thank all of you for coming. We hope to see you next week for Todd Stone. Please stack your chairs and dispose properly of your coffee cups. And you may turn on your cell phones.